Chinese authorities have outlined surveillance measures to deal with any monkeypox eventuality. Medical students from the University of the Gambia have transitioned into clinical areas. And Tanzania's government set to invest over $100 million to boost the country's IT industry. Well, this and more coming ahead on The World Today. Many thanks for joining us. This is Eyeafrica TV, and you are watching the World Today News Bulletin live from our studios in Banjul. I am Amadou Kante, and now the news in detail. Now, following reports of monkeypox disease in several countries, including those in Africa, authorities in China have said that they are planning to counter any potential case in the Asian country. Now, the country's health officials have also outlined their priority areas in combating the COVID-19 pandemic and curtailing its circulation. Now, biologists at the Chinese Center of Disease Control have since developed PCR test mechanisms against monkeypox. Let's have more details of that in this report.
China says it puts prevention as top priority in fighting against COVID and is trying to stop the spread in an early manner. According to an authority of China's National Health Commission, the PCR testing is the golden standard to realize early prevention.
Nucleic acid testing is a mature laboratory diagnostic method that has been applied internationally. It is highly sensitive and methodologically accurate, and the result of a nucleic acid test can be seen as a gold standard of diagnosis. Also, virus mutation has no effect on the accuracy of nucleic acid tests.
The official said that mass testing should be arranged in a scientific manner based on the specific situation of each outbreak, and it should not become a normal routine if an area has no outbreaks or risk of imported cases. Meanwhile, another health official said the current PCR test has been applied in China for over 10 years, and most of the facilities and reagents have been localized. It now can detect not only the novel coronavirus, but a total of 40 official infectious pathogens in China.
A real-time PCR method for the dual targets of the monkeypox virus has been developed by the CDC Virology Institute in China. The China CDC has verified its sensitivity and specificity in Sierra Leone in Africa, so China has the ability to carry out PCR detection of monkeypox, so China can detect potentially imported monkeypox cases in a timely manner.
As for severe acute hepatitis of unknown cause in children, the official said the pathogen has not been identified, but WHO recommends pathogen screening for suspected patients on specific viruses, and China has mature and reliable PCR testing capabilities for the detection of these pathogens.
And from the report there in China, back to the African continent. Now, as part of efforts to end the political unrest in Sudan, the country's military junta is holding talks with civilian parties in an attempt to resolve the political difference. However, some political allies are pessimistic about the breakthrough without involvement of the main opposition parties. Sudan have been engulfed in a political uproar since the military takeover in October, resulting in waves of protest. Here's more details of that in this report.
Talks to end Sudan's political crisis are underway, but there is concern about what they can achieve.
The talks were incomplete as the main opposition groups were absent. Talks should be held between the two opponents, like the generals and the former civilian leaders. These talks will not lead to a solution for the political crisis.
The Governing Sovereign Council has launched a mechanism to convince those who refuse to join the talks. It consists of prominent politicians, religious men, and civil society leaders.
The path for solving this crisis is still unclear. While some parties, like the Democratic Union and the Popular Congress parties, agreed to enroll in the UN-sponsored talks, others are skeptical and announced the boycott of the ongoing dialogue.
These groups include Freedom and Change Forces, the Sudanese Professionals Association, and the Resistance Committee. They have backed the protests against the former President Omar al-Bashir and the recent military takeover.
The powers that have boycotted the dialogue want to impose new dictatorship. There is no solution without discussions. Clinging to the slogan of no negotiation, no partnership, no legitimacy will lead to a deadlock.
Sudan has been in turmoil since October, when the military seized power and suspended the transitional agreement signed after the ouster of the former leader al-Bashir. About 100 people have been killed in protests against the military since October, according to the Sudanese Medics Group. Pro-democracy groups and main opposition leaders say there is a lack of assurances that an agreement with the army can last this time.
And from the report there in Sudan, next to the neighboring South Sudan, where the United Nations World Food Programme is intensifying efforts to acquire more food in the country to assist local farmers. Now, the 2018 peace deal between political leaders have brought relatively peace in some areas, which allowed farmers to resume their farming activities to enhance their well-being. Now, despite these mitigating factors, authorities revealed that more than 60% of the country's population faced acute food insecurity. Let's have more details of that in this report.
The residents of Renk are mainly farmers. The area hosts more than 150,000 people, according to the United Nations World Food Programme. Simsim, maize, sorghum are the main crops grown here. In 2021, farmers in Renk produced and sold 23 metric tons of surplus sorghum to WFP for $8 million.
The local purchase is very beneficiary for us as a business people or for this community. The benefit comes from we are getting the hard currency in the first. When we get the hard currency, we can import the machinery for the agriculture.
Since the country's 2018 peace deal, Renk town, which borders Sudan, has enjoyed relative peace. Many who had fled the 6-year violence prior to the peace accord have now returned to their own homes, and agriculture is providing the jobs that they desperately need to rebuild their lives.
Last year I was a student.
Last year I was a student. I completed my secondary school certificate, but I didn't want to sit at home and do nothing. So I came here to help my family.
The purchase of food by the WFP is also providing opportunities for other businesses.
When the non-governmental organizations are buying from farmers, there are drivers, porters and other business people. There are hundreds of people who come and buy food, and we are happy to sell to them.
May, June and July are what aid agencies call the lean season, the time when farmers are preparing for cultivation, and many of them can only secure a meal a day for themselves or none at all. The UN and South Sudan's government say more than 60% of the country's 13 million population is currently facing acute food shortage. However, these plays provide hope that South Sudan's food security problem can be resolved locally with the right infrastructure in place. South Sudan's government says it has designated 1.5 million hectares of land in Renk for agriculture. Already, about 500,000 hectares are being cultivated.
WFP is saving some of the transport costs that we will not incur if we are able to buy locally. And every year, WFP targets to increase the targets of buying locally different commodities. So we encourage the farmers in South Sudan. We encourage the government to look into these gaps and provide inputs to support the agricultural sector.
High fuel prices and multiple taxes are some of the challenges the farmers point out as hindering their progress. The government says it is working to address the challenges.
The report in South Sudan. Now back in the Gambia, where students of the 19th cohort of the University of the Gambia School of Medicine and Allied Health Sciences Friday transitions from biological sciences to clinical areas. A ceremony called the Lab Court ceremony marked the students' transition from the classroom to learning clinical skills, among other areas. Moses Emendi has the details in this report.
The UTG School of Medicine and Allied Health Sciences 19th cohort is the 5th set of students to undergo the lab coat ceremony. The ceremony marks their transition from preclinical to clinical health sciences, where they are to make first contact with patients. Professor Tinu Agunloi reminded the students that biomedical sciences are the foundation of clinical health sciences, observing that the white coat is a symbol of dedication to their work. She also encouraged the students to act professionally, saying doctors are role models and much is expected of them by the society. She, however, discouraged the idea of taking shortcuts in caring for patients, while insisting that doctors must connect with patients.
Medicine is a great profession, and you have to show commitment of the highest standards of ethics in patient care. There's no shortcuts. These are lives that we're dealing with, okay? Remember that you have to listen and connect to your patients. As I said, no matter where they're coming from, when you are with the patient, you must show that you are present. No phone calls, no chatting, no side talks. When you are with the patient, you can't be talking on your earphones. You have to show that you are with the patient. It's a sign of respect. And remember, this is a privilege that you have that most people don't.
She explained the process of becoming good doctors to the students, saying the process begins now. Dr. Charles Roberts also spoke at length on the etiquettes of the medical trade and explained that it takes hard work and commitment to become a medical doctor. Dr. Roberts revealed that the clinical level is even more intense.
You would realize that as you move on to the clinical years, it becomes more intense. And I remember some years ago, there was one class that when they moved into the clinical years, I think their first rotation was in surgery. And the first exam, about half of them failed. And some of them came running to the head of department saying, they're crying, I've never failed an exam, and there must be some problem, there must have been something wrong here. So I was there, and I wasn't the head of department then, but then I told them, welcome to clinical years. Clinical years are very difficult. Yes, I know a lot of you know how to read the books. You burn the midnight candle and you read the books. But when you come into clinical years, you have to do a lot of interaction with your patients, do a lot of clerking. The only way you learn how to become good in clerking is to clerk a number of patients.
He advised the transitioning students to continue reading, noting that learning is a continuous process in their trade. Whilst reminding students about the task that lies ahead, Dr. Momodu Kabir Cham also explained to them that they have a long way to go.
We start with the challenges. We are all aware that we are really working within a very challenging environment. And this is characterized by, if you travel from Banjul or Congo to Koina. I hope most of you know where Koina is, or Patatenda or Yoruba. Do you know? Or you only know Bakau, Serekuna, and Gunjum. Yeah? So, if you characterize the quality of care provided to Gambians and residents of Gambia in Banjul and Kanifing municipality, and you compare it with the remotest part of the country, so you'll have to say that there is a difference. Eh? There is a difference. Well, at least in Banjul, you have what they call Edward Francis Small Teaching Hospital. But in Fatatena, you don't have those facilities.
He described the transition as the beginning of a tedious expedition. Fatu Ebi Bojang, a transitioning student, explains that the reality on the ground is different from what she had imagined, but said they are determined to make their dreams come true.
And I believe each and every one of us is determined and hardworking. Along the line, sometimes as our lecturers and our seniors will tell you, the only thing keeping you in medical school is your passion. And sometimes we doubt our smartness. Each and every time in class, we doubt our smartness. Sometimes we cry. Our pillows can be our sweetness. We cry at night. We take caffeine at night just to stay up awake in order to make sure that our dreams of becoming a doctor and our ability to change the healthcare system of the Gambia, we can achieve it. So it is a noble profession, I would say, and we have a long way down the line.
At the end of the ceremony, the students took an oath of commitment of service to humanity. The UTG School of Medicine and Allied Health Sciences 19th cohort transition to clinical health level is a milestone achievement, but it is just the first stage of the tall ladder in their career. Moses Mendy, Eyeafrica News.
And that report there by Moses Mendy takes us to the break. Stay tuned, we'll be right back. This is Eyeafrica TV and you are watching the World Today News Bulletin live from our studios in Banjul. And now let's look at the rest of the stories. Now, the Tanzanian government has unveiled an ambitious plan to invest more than $100 million to enhance the country's digital economy. Now, the four-year project seeks to improve the East African nation's information technology sector with a view to boosting production. Experts opine that the new project could provide more job opportunities in the country. Let's have more details of that in this report.
Tanzania is looking to improve digital technology in every aspect of the economy. That doesn't come cheap. It secured $150 million to start the project. The ultimate aim, to enable the whole country's economy to go digital.
The ministry has prepared a strategy to improve the information communication technology space over the next 4 years, so as to improve ICT services in the country.
The government is responsible for the National Digital Economy Blueprint, but it's yet to be rolled out. Experts are hopeful that when more details are announced, it will create new jobs not seen before in Tanzania. That could go some way in helping solve the country's youth unemployment.
Now you can actually involve yourself with cryptocurrency, forex trading. There is an emergence of influencer marketing where lots of youth have been employed in, and actually even offer your services to even outside of the country companies that actually are employing people who can work remotely or work from wherever they are, but actually contribute to the development or growth of a company.
The government is already constructing a national fiber optic network of 8,000 kilometers, with the ultimate goal of almost double that. Once complete, all regions in Tanzania will be covered to enable excellent digital connectivity, even in the most remote areas of the country. High-speed mobile coverage is also in the plans.
The government is ready to give frequencies to service providers who are ready to start doing 5G trials.
Almost all of Tanzania's population currently use mobile phones, but only 40% use the internet regularly. So these ambitious plans are a huge challenge. This digital upgrading is no easy task. The project will involve strengthening laws, drafting policy and regulations. It will also need institutional and human capacity building and much more. It might be years before full migration occurs, but the government says it is a necessary investment in its journey to a mid-sized economy.
Report is coming from the Tanzanian capital, Dar es Salaam. On to our final story now. State agencies in the environmental protection Friday gathered to address issues surrounding the recent oil spillage at the Gambia Petroleum Depot in Manineri on May 28, 2022. The agencies included the National Environment Agency, National Disaster Management Agency, Gambia Petroleum, Gambia Ports Authority, PURA, and Gambia Maritime Administration, and the Ministry of Petroleum and Energy. Mafuji Sise has the details of that in this report.
Speaking on behalf of the state institutions, Dr. Dauda Baji stressed that the vessel MTST stroller started discharging heavy fuel at the Manineri depot from 3:30 p.m. to 2:30 a.m. and during that morning monitoring, the spillage was detected by Gambia Petroleum at 7 a.m.
The leakage happened during the period of the discharge. GMA was able to board the vessel and interview the ship crew, as well as gather evidence from the ship records, which will form part of the records of the investigation.
Momodu Lamin Sompo Sise of Pura indicated that it is not correct to say that the pipeline was neglected, adding that the focus of government agencies is to respond, which has different components, as they first had to find out what happened.
I don't think at this point we can say that the pipeline was neglected. I think the focus of the government agencies is to respond. This response has different components. We first had to find out what happened, because as Dr. Baji mentioned, the first 24 hours was to investigate. Is it from the vessel? Is it on the pipeline? Or is it from the tanks? Once the source of the contamination was established, then we have to do a surveillance together to find out which areas have been affected. And we have to, I think, from the map from NEA, also understand that we are dealing with a very large area, more than 10 to 15 kilometers along the shoreline on both sides. this is a vast amount of area to cover.
Sanat Dahaba is the Executive Director of the National Disaster Management and has this to say.
We have not reached the level of compensation as of now. I think my understanding of the GP's claim of this 3 million is the operational cost and then the value of what was discharged. I think that's what they were referring to, because you cannot talk about a compensation that has not even been determined. The assessment has not been completed. We don't even know the veracity. We don't even know the scope of the damage. Then compensation, you cannot talk about that now.
For Eyeafrica News, I am Mafuji Sise.
And that report by Mafuji Sise eventually brings us to the end of this news edition. But for more details on this and other stories, as always, as ever, you can visit on our website on Eyeafrica.tv. But for now, many thanks for the privilege of your company. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.